All right, so welcome everybody. Well, as far as I know, everybody knows me. So I'm Dorian. I'm now the owner of ikonhouse. It's been quite a few years since all of this started, and we'll be talking about it. Many of you know quite a bit already, but many of you haven't been around when we were in our early years. So feel free to ask questions. The The chat is open. Shubangi is here right next to me, helping coordinating all of this. Thank you very much for setting this up. We've been talking about this for years, actually, and then more recently for many months. Actually, thanks to Regina from Tradition that is on the call as well. She was the trigger for us to start these webinars. A bit late in the game, considering the COVID situation and the remote work, etc., but never too late, and we have now understood the benefits of these distance info sharing. Anyway, let's get started. We'll have a presentation. I have about 15 slides, and it's not about the slides, so please ask me questions so I can make sure that I provide you with the information that you would be seeking, if I can. So today's topic is From Icon to Ikonhouse, the story from the beginning, which dates back to 2007, 6, 7. So that's supposedly me. At some point, I was born in Belgium many years ago. Then I grew up, and in terms of academics, I completed a degree in business with a specialization in entrepreneurship. My mom is architect, my wife is architect, and my dad used to manage large corporations. So he said, son, before you start your own thing, you need to have some real experience in a real company. And that's how I ended up with Pampers in the shit collection, babies and mums at Procter & Gamble, in marketing specifically. So this was an experience in brand management, in distribution, in communicating benefits, and things like that. I have always liked interiors, layouts. Sitting next to my mom, there was a round staircase. I was sitting on one step and drawing on the next one, drawing the layouts of my room, and I would change it every 6 months. So I've never stopped enjoying interiors, layouts, and things like that. And then a bit later, a friend of mine opened an antique shop for furniture, and he was specifically collecting Paul Kjærholm designs from made originally by Christensen and then Fritz Hansen later on. And I've always been very fascinated with the fact that some items can be used over and over for an enormous amount of years. And I'm talking 50 years, maybe even 100 years. And if you go even beyond, it can be even longer. And I've always wondered why some items can last that long, and growing that patina that I genuinely, personally enjoyed. That patina showing the life that it has gone into these items, the experiences that people have had with these. And leaving P&G, I considered Dubai. Dubai was an interesting destination, a horrible site. It was one large construction site, but equally exciting because a lot of things were being created, and any opportunity was available. They were in need of everything. An advice that I had received was from my dad was, don't go too fast. You know what you need to do at P&G to keep things going. First, refine your idea, and do so with all the discipline and the analytics that you've learned. And that's exactly what I've done. So my first step, while I was still in office at Pampers, was to write my business plan. It ended up by being a 20-page document, but it all started with this business idea. How can I formulate what I had in mind in terms of what I wanted to create? Every word here is of importance, since it has its significance. When I read it today, this is something that I wrote back in 2007. It's still valid to the day of today. PK Selection was the name of the company, of the first furniture company. P standing for Powell's, K for two things. One, it's a shape of a furniture, like a chair, and then the K represents a typical letter in Scandinavia, in Scandinavian languages. Selection the same, KS instead of the CT. The business idea read like this: PK Selection is a furniture dealer and service provider, proposing minimalist, exclusive Scandinavian designed furniture to clients in its community, with strong ties to the Danish Republic of Fritz Hansen brand. The aim of PK Selection is to allow customers to physically experience minimalism in a private urban home environment, and to provide these with a consultative approach to interior solutions. Our edge is based on specialized product category and a distinctive service. So here it's interesting that from the beginning, the word service is coming very strong. This is not about training. This is about a service of first bringing a product to life in people's minds and hopefully hearts. And then on the other hand, I mentioned there that people need to try something. They need to experience the ambience in order to understand it. Last but not least, there's this element of strong ties. Actually, it was fully exclusive, and that was more by consequence. I did not want to spend more time convincing other brands to work with me, and Fritz Hansen was pretty interested in working with me. So I wanted to replicate the values of the brand Fritz Hansen, and more specifically of Paul Kjærulm, PK here again. So this was an idea of a selection of PK's collection of pieces and building on its own values. That was, back. So that was the business idea. And then obviously it's a long document. So here I just took another paragraph where I was explaining the steps that I had foreseen to launching this business. First, the objective is to enable consumers to experience the benefit and the feel, the character of minimalist interiors. Second, the launch and the building would be done in 3 phases. Proof of concept, making sure that there is demand in this market. Second, opening a concept store, the first one. And then the third one is expansion. I will not share with you the years that I had put behind these 3 steps because it has taken me quite a bit longer, but we are now in the 3rd phase. And last but not least, the branding was very important, making sure that everything communicates the values that we lived by, that we wanted the business to be recognized for. Yeah. So the first step was to open this home environment in an apartment in Dubai Marina. This was a new tower. Back in those days, only the right side near Palm Jumeirah of Marina was built. The rest was in construction. But nevertheless, it was an interior. You see here a sketch that we had initially imagined, and then in the pictures turning into reality, using a lot of Paul Kjærulm designs and then some icons already, like the swan chair and the egg chair that is not in these pictures. Moving on to the second phase, the idea here was to create a showroom. So the choice was to either open a commercial space, in which case I needed to review my legal setup. And in the end, I found out that financially, it was a better idea to move or to rent a large villa where the ground floor is a showroom. On the bottom left, you see my office that was in the bedroom on the ground floor as a space. It was obviously not in a tower anymore. It was visible from the street, but not a commercial villa yet. I thought in my mind that this was something legal because I was not selling the pieces in the villa, so not too sure what was or was not legal, but I thought I would deal with the problems if ever they were to come. So I was working from home, but with no employees. And you can see the setup. We had different lights from Louis Poulsen, different pieces of furniture of Fritz Hansen at that time. So these were still the 2 brands we were working with. At some point, I partnered, partnered with Chars, the wood floors from Sweden. I was actually with Pauline last night celebrating their 16 years of business in the UAE. So congratulations to them. And so we partnered there where they provided the floors, and then we had a few breakfast events or talks or networking opportunities. A bit later from that moment, Fritz Hansen told me, get another brand because you'll get a wider audience. And that's when I started working with Vitra. You see there's some Panton chairs, which is another clear design icon from the 50s, designed by Werner Panton. So Fritz Hansen then joined Vitra, and then a few other brands a bit later. Yeah. And here came an important meeting of Anders and Kalyan, my two business partners. You can see them on the top right image. One Danish guy and one Indian guy. And those two had opened their business in automation and audiovisual, actually consultancy. Anders used to be with Bang & Olufsen and then came here and started his business. On the left, you see an image of an exhibition, and this exhibition was Big Boys Toys. All icons on that exhibition. The Eames lounge chair is obviously a classic from the 50s. The Biolab 5s, again, is a classic design in speakers. And then we have this extra mega TV from Bang & Olufsen and a few other pieces from Paul Caron. And this is when we created the name Ikonhouse. So it moved from PK Selection to Ikonhouse. And the idea of Ikonhouse is the house of icons. And an icon is a reference for something. And all of us have grown in our lives with objects that are those references. There are some of those objects, when you think of scissors, you will have a specific shape in mind. If you think of a foldable knife, you will probably have a specific image in mind. For me, it was from a brand called Opinel. This is the knife that I have used since I was allowed to in my teenage life. And for me, that is a knife. And the surprising bit is many of these objects are not necessarily expensive, but for some reason, they last extremely long. They work and work and work. And later, I grew quite fond of knives and I bought other knives. And I was surprised to see that other knives, much more expensive, would not last more than a couple of years before becoming dangerous, actually, foldable knives. This encyclopedia behind me is full of these objects that are a clear reference, from teapots to many other objects that we have in our daily lives. So the idea of an icon, it's a reference. It's an object that has been designed properly, not necessarily with expensive materials, but they're done in such a way that they're durable. They will grow patina, they will not wear out quickly. And so we have these objects that have been well made. And Kalyan, Anders, and I were very fond of that idea of surround yourself with those objects that live with you, that will grow patina in the experiences that you will have with them. Be it objects, but also be technology. Technology is a fast-moving product, but at the same time, not so much. When we think about automation in smart homes, this is not something new. This is something that was already around in the 70s. And we're talking lighting control, curtain control, pretty basic things. In some of the devices, like today's mobile phones and other things, they are extremely complex objects. But at the end of the day, when it comes to control, it's still pretty simple and basic. The challenge is to bring it all into one interface. You can see on the right, bottom right, an iPad, or it's an iPad from Apple, but it could be any tablet, where you have an interface. And in that interface, you see a few buttons. And so for some people, that's way too many buttons. They don't know what to do. They get overwhelmed. For other people, it's not enough buttons. They would want to do more. So the same interface can be considered as complicated or simple, intuitive. Someone that really understood this is Steve Jobs from Apple. What a revolution we lived when he removed all manuals, removed all the words from the packaging. It was just one black box with a big logo, Big Apple, and maybe the name of the product. And we were all terrified. What do I do now? But actually, the interface that he put on his products are so intuitive that you didn't need to think much before you could start operating the device. As a proof, any kid of, say, more than 5-year-olds will be able to do quite a bit. And when I say quite a bit, it's a lot more than I can do myself at my age now. So obviously kids fear less and they will just try things. But that's iconic in the sense of this is the reference. Steve Jobs has created a reference in many applications, and many people have followed his thinking in simplifying. So this is where the name comes from. It's the house of icons. It's the house of things that are made properly, the right way. The next step was for us to open a commercial showroom. So this was the beginning of Iconhouse. This is our first showroom behind Garden Center, next to Garden Center, right behind Sherzide Road. On the top left, you can see my car, another icon of the 50s, a Defender. And then the window was open. We were obviously not counting hours during that time. We have spent pretty much all our lives during a couple of months in setting up that showroom, but we had a blast. The second image with Kalyan, that's another icon, the Diwa meter. That's the electrical power meter. We did struggle for, I don't remember now, I will do everything I can to forget about it because it was frustrating. But I think it took us about 6 months to get that meter. And during 6 months, we were operating from one cable that we were running on one plug in that atrium somewhere. So from that one cable, this is how we powered our computers. And whenever we wanted to show some lights, we would just plug it in, hoping not to trip the system. Anyway, key moment to have that DWA connection. The image on the right, no, not yet, is an image to show practicality. Obviously, we didn't know everything when we went about it. A lot of problems arise at different times, and one of them was the offloading of containers. Obviously, we had ordered quite a bit for that showroom, and specifically a couple of pianos that were weighing 200, 300 kilos. Another one was a carpet. I did not think about it, and it came in one roll, and that one roll was weighing probably another 300 kilograms. So we had no idea how to offload it from the truck. And the truck was parked where my Defender is right now. I mean, in this picture. And then someone said, did you know that you can call this number and you can get one of these forklift trucks in about 10 minutes? You pay 10 dirhams and they will offload any container. Not always very gently, but they do the job. So the message here is, don't be afraid. Problems will come, but you will solve them as they come. So bottom left, you see the showroom when it was all dark. We were working at the back on the right, and sometimes plugging that wire in order to have some lights. The second image in the middle is a Polkaron exhibition, and that was the first talk we gave. Iconhouse became very known for design talks that we've done over 2-3 years. And the first one was about Polkaron. That was what I knew most coming from PK Selection. And then another key moment for us was Downtown Design #1. Instead of doing talks, why don't we bring craftspeople to show their skills? And instead of doing it at the showroom, we were invited to do it at Downtown Design. And so we did in that year. Next move was to come to Al Sakal Avenue. So this was a core and shell, under designed the space as you know it. And then we built it. We obviously, once again, we had our fair share of challenges, but we have overcome them one at a time. And we got to where we are today. The other images is about a big fair called Cause Arts Fest, where we welcome many people during one weekend. And that's where we set up our different exhibitions. So yeah, that was another major step. we came to Al Serkal, we moved to Al Serkal because we thought that it would give us more visibility and build awareness among this market, which it did. However, we have come to learn a few years later that it has not helped us with business because most people came to view the exhibition. They didn't come with a need. Anyway, we can talk about that a bit later. So that was the last step in our evolution from a physical space point of view. On the right, you see 3 images. Ikonhouse started, we were about 6, and then quickly we became 8 with a project manager and a technician. And then over the years, from let's say 8, we became 10, 12, 15, 20, 25, and today we are over 40. So on the left, you see an organization chart. I will remember that day, the first day, I thought actually it would be necessary now to create this chart. I was very familiar with those charts at the time of Procter & Gamble, but I did not see it come at Ikonhouse that one day we would need such a document. Another document that we did need, and I feel a bit embarrassed in saying so, but it was a Facebook. I did ask Maud actually to create, it was actually Miriam, not Maud, another employee, to create a book with the faces of the employees, because we became so many people that I struggled to remember the names of everyone. And I was feeling quite embarrassed, but then I thought, okay, no need to feel embarrassed. I really need to know these names. So I did ask for me and only me to have this book. And then I was asked by other people, can you help me? I can't remember all these names. For some of the Europeans, typical Indian names are difficult to memorize. And so then I found out that everybody liked to have this Facebook. And then it became quite an object to make it to that Facebook and have your denomination, your title in it. But yeah, no, the point is what is here that as the months go by and as the years go by, we hire people and we become quite a big team. On the bottom, it's not everybody, and it's not everybody because we can't leave our sites anymore. So it's very hard for us to gather everybody in one location because there will always be something urgent to do somewhere. But nevertheless, once in a few months, we try to gather everybody for a dinner in a restaurant somewhere in Dubai. That's another slide. You don't need to try to understand it because nobody understood this. But we found that we were struggling. The information flow was becoming so complicated that we embarked on the exercise that we failed in the end to map the flow of the information. And it was becoming so complicated because we had sources of information in different places, and that information needed to go to different softwares, including some Excel files. And obviously, when you hear the word Excel files, that means duplication. And when we have duplication, that means that nobody knows the reality anymore. We had a lot of conflicting information. We didn't know what was the last invoiced amount. When the client asked how much do we need to pay, we were not sure anymore. It was a big mess. And then we realized Anders gave us this slide, and that was exactly who we were. We were pushing and pulling and breathing and shouting, laughing as well a lot. We had a lot of fun and playing music very loud. We had fun. It was great. But we did realize that we were pushing very hard, and at some point we had to stop and think, maybe what we're doing is not the best way. But it's difficult when you have people asking you for things and you struggle to get to the end of the day and a lot of things are missed. Why would you stop and causing more delays to think whether there's maybe a more efficient way in doing things? We were struggling quite a lot actually. 18 and 19 have been very challenging years. And this is exactly what we did. We stopped. Obviously, COVID hit as well in February or March 2020, bringing everything to full stop. It was very stressful for many people, but it was also an opportunity to do exactly what is in this image, to stop and think about what we're doing and whether the way we're doing things is the most efficient. And obviously, we found a lot of opportunities to be a lot more efficient and effective. So the first step in this exercise was to realize, what is it that we actually do? We used to call our business two things. We call it retail and we call it tech. And in the world of retail, it was actually furniture and decorative lighting. And in the world of tech, it was automation, which is controls, switches, and audiovisual. And then we found out, okay, let's split these in 4 distinct business lines for a very specific reason, because when you think of what these business lines do and need, they're actually quite different. And so if you think that if for every one of these business lines, we need to talk to different people, that means that we need to have different marketing, different communications, a different approach to the market. Furniture is part of what's called FF&E. Automation is part of MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. It's part of the world of contractors. In the construction zones, it's the gray stage where you have concrete everywhere. The whole idea of merging between Anders and Kalyan's company and PK Selection was actually to sell furniture to automation projects and promote automation to furniture clients. But the reality was, when we stopped and think, no, this is not happening. None of our automation clients have bought furniture from us, and none of our furniture clients bought automation from us. It was a shock, and it was frustrating to realize it. But moving on, what do? We changed our sales strategy, we changed our communication strategy, and now we remind everybody at any given time, whenever we have an opportunity, that we do these 4 distinct things. And if they have an interest in one of the 4, or 2 of the 4, or 3 of the 4, or 4 of the 4, they should voice so. And we have a dedicated team behind every one of these activities. The second thing, which is the case throughout this presentation, many things that I have already talked about, is our values. This is what we have started with, and they have not left us to this day, and they will not leave us tomorrow either. This is what ikonhouse stands for: reliability, durability, and education. From education to implementation. We stay. We are the last to leave a project until, and we don't do so before the client is reaching full satisfaction. Reliability, it's about being confident that the product that you have in your hands will actually do what it's supposed to do. If you have a knife, it needs to cut. If it doesn't cut, it's not reliable. Same with our furniture. A chair is supposed to be sturdy, support you. If it's wobbly, it's not performing. In automation, you have a switch on the wall, it says lights. If you click on that button, and if the lights do not turn on or off, it's not reliable. So we are entirely focused on providing products and services to deliver that reliability. Durability is the second one. And durability, it's all about having these items with you for a long time. Objects is easy to understand. Technology may be less. I was very happy to hear recently that we delivered a villa for the owner of Omniat 11 years ago. And I was informed that we haven't been to that villa a single time in 11 years for maintenance call. Mehdi, the owner, asked me recently to come back to him with some ideas of upgrades. He doesn't need anything, but he wants us. He wants to explore new features. And that's when I found out that actually we haven't touched that system in 11 years. That's durability. And then the third element, it's from education to execution. We have forgotten where these objects come from. We have been completely detached as a society from the manufacturer. Many years ago, the artisan would be down the road, you would go and see him or her, and you would understand how things are made. There would be a conversation, there would be measures, there would be an exchange, and you would understand how things are done. Nowadays, it's far away, we're not interested, we live a very fast-paced life, we're glued to our screens and consuming media, and we don't think anymore about how things are made, except sometimes in the press when there is a scandal because the way some things have been done is not appropriate. And in our world, it's the same. People have forgotten what these furnitures actually represent. Many of these manufacturers have been in business for more than 100 years. 100 years is a very long time for a company. When I visited the factories, a lot of the craftsmen have been around for like 30, 40, 50 years sometimes. So those people have gained tremendous experience in how to do something. And in the execution, it's the same. And in technology, it's once again the same. On how you connect wires will give you a more durable, a more reliable system in terms of platform, in terms of equipment. And last but not least, once you have your wires in place, you need your interface to be intuitive. And that's what we call our product in automation. It's not selling computers and wires. It's actually selling the experience of pressing on a button or on a screen and have something happen. So thinking about sharpening our tools to be better at what we do, we reminded ourselves that we are about boutique projects as opposed to tenders. Ikonhouse thrives when the investors, the users, the client are personally invested in their project. Could be residential, could be their office, it could be a restaurant that they're investing in, that doesn't matter. But they need to have their hearts and mind involved. The geography is Dubai, first and foremost. We have projects in Abu Dhabi, we have projects in Sharjah, we've looked into Ras Al Khaimah and Fujairah, but our main ground is Dubai. And here I had an experience about 2 years ago when Saudi completely opened up and had parties that we would never have imagined possible. And everybody around me was in Saudi. And I felt very lonely here. And like, what am I doing here? Am I stupid? Am I missing an opportunity here? We can see this gold rush. And I decided, no, I will not go. I will not go because the opportunities we have here right at our arm length is big enough for the size of ikonhouse. And we might get completely distracted by this possible big opportunity. So I decided to apply this strategy that we have right there. Talking of which, now we have much stronger foundations, and now I feel we have the strength and the capacity to start exploring international markets. The third one, it's all about genuine quality. How many times have we not been tempted by giving in on price and propose cheaper products or solutions? But if those solutions are not durable, this is not in line with one of our values. We had big debates, and in the end we said no, we will actually further focus. We are about the right products. Often they come at a price and at a budget, but we need to find the clients that are looking for these solutions and stick to our truth in terms of what we stand for. The how to win has not changed. This slide was made a long time back when I was giving some talks at Downtown Design, actually that first exhibition. Ikonhouse is set up as a design center. It's a location where you can try things. You can buy originals, exclusively originals. You can specify, you can see, you can show, you can walk around, you can smell materials, you can explore all the finishes in our sample library. Secondly, it's about a community. It's a community that stands for the real thing. Real means products and systems done in the right manner. And it's gathering these like-minded people and have a voice that people should value things that are done the right way. Spreading the word. We've never stopped trying, and we will continue doing so. And lastly, I already mentioned that word, it's about education. It's reminding people that things and objects are made out of materials and they're assembled in a very specific way. And it matters. We should be interested for the longevity and the durability of the object. This is also at the core of sustainability. If you have an object that will last longer with you or not with you, that is sustainability. So this wraps my presentation for today. Let's check if we have any questions of anyone.
Yes. I don't think we have any questions.
All right, so we will leave it at that. I will reiterate, many of you know this, but if you have any questions, if you're eager to share some of your obstacles or talk about some things that we have lived, please feel free to reach out. I will be more than happy to have a coffee with any of you. This is the second webinar that we've done. This is the beginning of a series. We're going to try to have this on a weekly basis. I promise you it will not always be me talking. Yeah, so this is the beginning of a new format of talks, and hopefully this can reach beyond the typical audience that we have. Thank you very much. I wish you all a very nice end of the day and a fabulous weekend. Take care and see you soon at Ikonhouse.